Chapter 85 of Marek Tries to Salted Fish. Lin Qingyu changed his clothes and took a carriage to Jinxiu Pavilion. As the finest dining establishment in the capital, Jinxiu Pavilion was always full of people and very lively, save for special periods such as times of national mourning. Even though Lin Qingyu thought that Shen Haoshi would be in the capital, he had not expected that he would invite him to meet at Jinxiu Pavilion. Although he had already ordered the Tianji camp to stop their pursuit of Shen Haoshi himself should not know about it yet, and yet he dared to appear within the capital. Was this due to his confidence in his own skills? The edict stripping Xiaocheng of his position as crown prince has already been publicized. It was very likely that Shen Haoshi was looking for him at this time because of Xiaocheng. Needless to say, he was looking forward to it. Lin Qingyu asked the pavilion manager for a private room on the second floor and a pot of tea. He sat by the window, drinking tea and watching people come and go. Yangshan Street was as bustling as ever, with the clamoring of shopkeepers and hawkers and pedestrians hurriedly passing by. The emperor was seriously ill. The position of heir has changed hands. All this seemed to have no effect on these ordinary people. If things were like this in the capital, what more in other places? No matter who the crown prince was, who was sitting on the dragon chair, or who was holding the royal brush to rule the lands under heaven, the life of the common people will go on. After some time, the door shut softly. Lin Qingyu said, "Come in," and a man wearing a veiled hat walked in. The black gauze hung down, blocking the man's features. Lin Qingyu asked Wan Tong to go outside and stand watch. The man took off his hat, revealing an ordinary face, forgettable in the blink of an eye. Lin Qingyu said, "I didn't expect to see you again so soon." Shen Haoshi showed a faint smile. "Dr. Lin." Shen Haoshi could still smile. It seemed he didn't come to criticize him. Lin Qingyu pushed back his sleeve and pointed to the seat across the tea table. "Sit." Shen Haoshi sat down in front of Lin Qingyu, a hint of unease on his face, but calm overall. Lin Qingyu asked him, "Why did you ask me to meet here? Didn't we always meet at Chanseng Temple?" "I'm leaving the capital. I don't know when I will see you again." Shen Haoshi lowered his eyes and said, "Before I leave, I want to have a drink with you." Lin Qingyu looked at the man's honest appearance and felt a twinge of discomfort in his chest. He and Shen Haoshi have known each other for a long time. Every time they met, it was either at the Imperial Medical Office or at Chanseng Temple. Never have the two of them sat together like this, across each other, over a pot of good tea. In the past, he had used Shen Haoshi as a chess piece, and there was no need for a chess player and a chess piece to drink together. Now that Xiaocheng had fallen, Shen Haoshi was no longer even qualified to be a chess piece in his hand. Why had he chosen to come here instead of keeping his husband company? Lin Qingyu asked, "Why do you want to drink with me?" Shen Haoshi looked up and said, "Because I regard Dr. Lin as a friend." Lin Qingyu couldn't help but smile. His smile momentarily shunned Shen Haoshi, and he couldn't help but say, "Also, your eyes really look like Jingchen's." Lin Qingyu said jokingly, "So, you too take me as a substitute for Princess Jingchen?" Shen Haoshi sternly denied, "I don't. You're good looking, even better looking than Jingchen, and your personalities are completely different. I would never confuse the two of you. But you healed my wounds, and you found Brother Zhu for me, and allowed me to discover the truth of that time. I'm very grateful to you." Lin Qingyu asked, "Let me ask you, Did you stay in the capital because you didn't believe me? Did you think I would harm Jingchen? I believed you, Shen Haoshi defended with difficulty. I just. If you care so much about Jingchen, why don't you go to the north to see him? Shen Haoshi shook his head. He should be doing well in the north. I don't want to trouble him. Lin Qingyu looked at him for a while and asked, what kind of wine would you like to drink? There was a hint of joy in Shen Haoshi's face. His lifeless face finally had a bit of spirit. Whatever you would like. Shen Haoshi mentioned nothing of Shaocheng, as though he really just wanted to drink with Lin Qingyu. Lin Qingyu ordered a pot of Jinshu's Pavilion signature bamboo leaf wine and ordered a few dishes that he thought were good. Shen Haoshi wasn't good with words and spoke little unless it was necessary. Lin Qingyu too wasn't someone who talked a lot, and most of his words he spoke to Gu Fuxiao. The two spent the meal in silence. In the end, Shen Haoshi picked up the wine and said, let's bid each other goodbye today. Henceforth, we shall be worlds apart and meeting will be difficult. Dr. Lin, take care. Lin Qingyu also raised his cup to a toast. He took a sip and said, were you planning to go back to the fishing village in the southern border? Shen Haoshi laughed at himself. I haven't thought about it yet. The world is so big. Someday there will be a place for me. It's a pity that you would be wasting your martial arts skills. You probably won't be able to rejoin the Tanji camp, Lin Qingyu said after a pause. Perhaps you would be willing to stay with me and the general? Lin Qingyu's invitation was far beyond Shen Haoshi's expectations. You mean General Gu? Lin Qingyu nodded. The general is now in charge of the Imperial Guards and the Capital Cavalry Battalion. It would not be difficult to find a position for you. Haven't you always admired the general? After getting over the shock, Shen Haoshi smiled. Thank you, Dr. Lin, for your kindness. I do admire the general, but unfortunately, I do not wish to remain in the capital. Lin Qingyu pondered. So, you still want to escape? No, I just want to have a peaceful life. Lin Qingyu smiled coldly. If you truly had let go of everything, you wouldn't be here now. Shen Haoshi pursed his lips and fell into silence. After a while, Lin Qingyu said, Haoshi, the truth that Zhu Gongshi told you that day was not entirely true. Shen Haoshi's pupils suddenly shrank. What? It is true that Shaocheng bears responsibility for the destruction of the Heavenly Prison Sect, but at the last moment, he pulled back. It was the Emperor who had a backup plan. Under the guise of the Red Fang sect, he ordered the Tanji camp to slaughter every last member of the Heavenly Prison Sect. Shaocheng expended a lot of effort to save your life, Lin Qingyu said. But Shaocheng's scheming against the Heavenly Prison Sect and his deception of you all these years makes him, in my opinion, no different from the culprit, the Emperor. However, you might think otherwise. Shen Haoshi's face paled. Why are you suddenly telling me the truth? Lin Qingyu said calmly. Don't you think of me as a friend? I don't usually lie to my friends. Of course, he was willing to tell Shen Haoshi the actual truth. The most important point was that Shaocheng had already suffered a crushing defeat. No one knows how long he had left to live. There was no possibility he would ever return to power. Under the circumstances, the truth was not so important. No, I don't think he should have. This is something I don't understand with Lin Qingyu's behavior. He comes clean. He faces Shaocheng and stresses him. I get it at that point. It made Xiaocheng fall into coma, but he could have still made it possible without revealing himself as the mastermind. And now again, Shen Haoshi, he's already wavering. He's a freaking protagonist, and Xiaocheng is also a protagonist. You need one freaking grain of sand to make them, come back to each other. Lynching you. Why? Why would you do this? And I'm so freaking scared of this, second death that will happen. And I don't want you to, hit yourself. Oh my gosh. I'm so freaking stressed. Freaking hell. Shen Haoshi was silent. Only that his breathing became heavier. Lin Qingyu scrutinized his expression and said, "Why, do you now regret slashing him?" When Shen Haoshi spoke again, his voice was hoarse. "Why did you lie to me?" Lin Qingyu said bluntly, "I was afraid you would grow soft-hearted." A strange laugh came out of Shen Haoshi's throat. "In your eyes, I'm just so cheap?" Lin Qingyu asked back. "Aren't you?" Shen Haoshi choked on his breath. He suddenly stood up and clenched his hands into fists. "I'm leaving." Lin Qingyu said behind him, "I lied to you. I'm sorry, but I don't regret it. Even given the circumstances at that time, you still chose to spare Xiaocheng's life. If you had known that Xiaocheng grew soft-hearted in the end, I was afraid that not only you would not strike him, but you might even forgive him generously and continue on warming his bed and throwing your life away for him." The undisguised contempt in Lin Qingyu's tone was like a knife stabbing on Shen Haoshi's heart. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he blurted out, "I wouldn't." Lin Qingyu put down his drink. "Then show me," Shen Haoshi said, almost like a growl. "What do you want me to do?" "Xiaocheng is recuperating in Jinyang Garden. I can let you see him again." Shen Haoshi said hoarsely. "See him?" "After you see him again, whether you wish to take his life to avenge the Heavenly Prison sect, or to save him so that you can continue your relationship in the future, or let him live as he is, half dead and watching helplessly as you build a life of love and happiness with someone else, murmuring endearments yet powerless. Him your captive for the rest of his life. Simply tell me, and I shall grant it to you." Lin Qingyu raised the corner of his lips, and there was an irresistible bewitchment in his cold voice. "But I will not force you. The right to choose is in your own hands." Shen Haoshi was stunned for a long time and sat down slowly. On the other hand, Lin Qingyu stood up. "When you have thought about it, come find me again." I don't feel good about this whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's okay to kind of not lie, and it's better to actually tell the truth without having that fear of it might come to light in the future. But I just feel they're so freaking risky. I don't understand this risky movements Lin Qingyu takes, and I'm also freaking worried. I'm so scared for General Go right now. Gosh. I hope the protagonist honor doesn't shed its last light on Xiaocheng. It would be so freaking bad. Now past the Dragon Boat Festival, the days were getting hotter. The capital has not had a drop of rain for 2 months. The fields were cracked and the streams had dried up. Seeing the severe drought in the capital, the new crown prince, Shao Jie, went to Tiantai mountain together with the national teacher to ask for rain. He had yet to return. The sun's rays were scorching and cicadas cried out loudly. Lin Qingyu has been in the Imperial Medical Office's library for most of the day. He was half through the Dayu's medical compendium. Suddenly, someone touched his right shoulder. He looked automatically to his right. There was no one there. When he looked back, he saw a 30-year-old man sitting on his left. Lin Qingyu wondered, "Why are you here?" The hotter the weather, the more salted was Gu Fuzhao. Throughout the midsummer, he barely seen Gu Fuzhao go out. It must be some big matter to force Gu Fuzhao to brave the scorching sun to go to the Imperial Medical Office to come looking for him. There was a thin layer of sweat on Gu Fuzhao's forehead. One hand behind his back, he closed Lin Qingyu's book with the other. He pushed it aside and said with a smile, "I have something for you." "What?" Gu Fuzhao took out his hand from behind his back. He was holding a porcelain jar. He said with an old spirit, "Ever since our darling little Gu died beneath Wantong's foot, you have been depressed, your face awash with tears. As your husband, I simply can't stand it. So..." Lin Qingyu's heartbeat began to race. "You didn't." "That's right. I present to you a nest of little Gu insects." Gu Fuzhao opened the lid. "I sent people to request these from the southern border's Gu King. They should meet your requirements." Lin Qingyu took a closer look at the Gu insects that Gu Fuzhao gave him. A quick look showed that they were indeed the kind he wanted. As for whether they would produce the desired effect, that may only be known after raising them. But this has already saved him more than half of the time and effort already. Lin Qingyu smiled. "This is the best gift I have ever received." Gu Fuzhao's mood turned subtle. Do you like it more than the engagement ring I gave you?" To be honest, a nest of little Gu insects were much more useful to him than a ring. Because he often had to concoct medicines, it was inconvenient to wear things on his hands. The ring that Gu Fuzhao gave him, he had stored away together with other important objects. But at this moment, Lin Qingyu felt that he could tell a harmless little lie. He wiped the sweat from Gu Fuzhao's forehead with his sleeve. "I still prefer the ring." Gu Fuzhao relaxed and he sat, half leaning against the table. Even so, he was still much taller than Lin Qingyu, who was standing upright. Gu Fuzhao grabbed him casually, and Lin Qingyu was taken a step forward, bracketing between a pair of long legs. Gu Fuzhao looked at Lin Qingyu's expression and said, "You lied, Dr. Lin. You clearly prefer the little Gu insects." "Ah, you almost had me fooled again." There was a smile in Lin Qingyu's eyes. "Both these things you gave to me. So, what's the difference?" Gu Fuzhao raised his eyebrows. "Then, what about my return gift?" Lin Qingyu lightly touched his cheek. "I will give it to you when we return to the mansion." Gu Fuzhao seemed to be dissatisfied. He held on to Lin Qingyu, not letting him go. That's like saying you'll give it to me in an year." Lin Qingyu warned. "This is the library. There may be students from the Imperial Medical Office later." Gu Fuzhao smiled and let go of him. "So that's it." Before leaving, Lin Qingyu had to return the medical books on the table. Gu Fuzhao followed behind him, carrying the books. Gu Fuzhao handed the books, and Lin Qingyu put them away. Before the last book, Gu Fuzhao suddenly called out to him, "Qingyu?" As soon as Lin Qingyu turned around, he was gently pushed. his back directly against the bookshelf. Before he could react, Gu Fuzhou bent down and kissed his lips. In an instant, Lin Qingyu was so panicked that he froze in place. This wasn't the general's mansion. They weren't in their bedroom. They were in the library, and there are two guards posted at the door. Even if they wouldn't be spotted, this was where he usually studied medicine. How could Gu Fuzhou? How could he kiss him here? It wasn't until his lips were bitten that Lin Qingyu barely managed to come back to his senses. He heard Gu Fuzhou say, "Qingyu, open your mouth." Lin Qingyu held the last book in his arms, his cheeks red. He called out subconsciously, "Jiang." His lips parted, and young Master Jiang's tongue came just as expected and coaxing this little inexplicable sound from him. They had no idea when the weather took a turn outside. A flash of lightning streaked through the air. Then thunder, then wind. A rainstorm came suddenly pouring down. The rain pounded the window casement, and the library was as dark as night. Lin Qingyu leaned back against the bookshelf. He closed his eyes, long lashes trembling slightly. He allowed Gu Fuzhou to kiss him. Warm, gentle, and ardent. This was the first and last rain of the summer. In the August, the former crown prince Shaocheng died in Jinyang Garden. In October, the emperor died of illness, and the crown prince Shaojie ascended to the throne with reigning the title of Chu Xie. Empress Feng Wen, the only empress dowager of Daiyu, held court behind a curtain. Whoa, I did not realize they were just off Shao Cheng and the emperor in one freaking sentence. Damn. I mean, I was still questioning the author because we have a long way to finish this novel. I was questioning Shao Cheng might, miraculously wake up and seek revenge and do something to our General Gu. But I guess that didn't happen. That's a good thing, but I'm scared. I'm still scared. This should have been the happy ending. Like, married twice to salted fish, not thrice to salted fish. So I'm scared. I'm so freaking scared. Oh my gosh. What to do?